This is my KC tier list / prediction. I don't have a script in front of me. I just gonna talk about how I feel, the game, meta, what I feel will do well in KC, what I feel will not. So let's go. Before starting, I like to say how I decide where something is tiered, and I don't really have standard tiers. I don't have like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Like these do not represent tier 1, tier 3. Main decks represent a deck that you will use for most likely the entire run, because like it's a deck that needs investment, I'd say, and that you can't just like jump into in the middle of the KC and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play this. Like, this is a deck that you prepared for the KC. Like, you knew it was gonna be playable, you knew it was gonna be good, and you knew you would be able to top it. So if I put something here, it's because probably it's able to top. And put it really high, it's a good deck. Really here, like almost secondary line. Doesn't mean that it's bad, it means that it's just a worse choice, in my opinion, compared to other decks, but it's still like fair enough to bring it. So it's all fair game, like that. And if it's on the line of secondary, it's because it's a deck that maybe it's really good as a secondary, but it's bad as a main deck. As for unplayable, it's stuff that like, if you top with this, you're either a one trick or you're just a psycho. It's just nothing else to add. And if a deck is really high in the secondary, it's because it's really close to being a main deck. It's a really good meta call. If it's really low, it means not an amazing meta call. It doesn't have that many winning matchups against the main decks. It's still capable. And if it's an unplayable, it means that it's not a good deck, not a good choice. You're purposefully just handicapping yourself by playing that deck. It's here. It's okay. Like, if you want to play it, play it. It's just not good. If it's low, it's because it's just really unplayable. So let's go. I'll probably start by the two decks that, in my opinion, define the KC, which are Phantom Knights and Gandara. And I'm gonna put them lined to each other because not Witchcrafter, but not. I'm gonna put them lined together because I feel like both of them have their strengths and both of them have their like matchups. But in general, one isn't better than the other. Like, it's a big choice, in my opinion. If you're a KC player that wants to top, you have the choice of either going Phantom Knights or Gandora. Like, you gotta invest time into one of these as your main deck. You can play both. Nothing like forbids you from doing that. I feel like you just need to invest into one of those. If you play both, then sure, that's fine. But if you just play one, I think your mentals will be better over the entire run. Because like swapping between these two isn't easy, since both of them have weird matchups that they don't win from the stuff. And you need to be focused on both of these because as easy as they seem to play, they have some tough decisions that you can do. Phantom Knights has a little bit less room to, for changes during the run because the only thing you can run is the ratios of your back row. While Gandora has a lot of room for change. Like, Gandora can just swap from a Chaos list to a Nerf Machine one. It can swap to DD Crows, it can swap to Skullmeisters, it can swap to Spy Plane, it can swap to Eccentrics, Liveneer, like, it can swap to pretty much anything. It has a lot of room for change because the only thing you're forced to run is the 10 gadgets and the Gandoras. That's it. Like, that's the only thing you need to run. Everything else can be whatever you want. as long as it make it a big list, in my opinion, because like, okay, Hydroid is kind of mandatory, but still, as long as you make it a big list, because let me tell you, smaller Gandora lists suck, because you don't want to draw the free Gandoras. You just don't want to start with them. You want to shuffle back cards and make sure that you are fixing your hand as you are adding the Gandoras. You don't want to draw the Gandoras because they don't do anything in your hand, and they're just there. If you just draw free Gandoras, your skill isn't live, you can't even skill. You need to like summon a gadget and go like big silent magician on top of it, which isn't the best idea, I'd say. But as I said, these two define Viscasi, and I think the meta will revolve around whether or not you can beat Phantom Knights or Gandora, whether or not you beat one or the other. If you beat both, then I guess you're insane. And if your deck can't do that, or it has trouble dealing at least with one of these, it will likely not be super viable. So it's really up to you, again, whether to play the tier 1 decks or not. Sure, these two. But in general, I feel like either you play this or you focus on the matchups against these two. These two are like the big two decks. I don't feel like there is a deck in between these. They're just that good right now. None of them is too oppressive, which is the cool thing. Because Phantom Knights has, its big hands. It's not like doing insane things. It's not like tier 0 stuff. Insane goes for Gandora. Sometimes it breaks. You just not a tier 0 deck, It's definitely cool. But again, you need to have good decks in the deck, because if you're gonna go and play 6 backrow removals like this Gandora, you know that it's not gonna go well. Like, you're gonna get ass blasted. Well, if it's Phantom Knights and you have a chain disappearance in your deck, it's gonna be fine. Pretty much their entire deck, like so yeah, there are a lot of choices that you can make for your decks, and I feel like that will be a lot of things. Now, I'd like to talk about Gandora because it's likely what I time, and say that the Chaos list of Gandora is like, it's not as good. Like, Chaos is fine in my opinion for like day 1, but I don't know, I feel like they're just gonna face so many mirrors, and the Chaos is suck in the mirror. It's good against Rogue Dark after you keep on the Chaos list. Pendulum decks, and everything strong. But in my opinion, it's so bad in the mirror that you can't afford to run it because it's so good. And you just don't want it. Why would you go out of your way? You're not even something. So that's basically my take on Gandora. If you want to play Gandora, in my opinion, play the machine list, and then you can mess around with the decks. If you want, you can play with Levy. If you want, you can play without it. In general, I don't like Chaos lists. They're cool, but not good. Let's go with the other decks now, I'd say. DDD. I'm gonna start with this. I feel like DDD is probably one of the worst main decks you can get. Like, DDD is not good. Oh wait, it's Tarkaya. DDD is not good. I feel like a lot of people are coping on this, because the deck is fairly easy to play. It's fairly linear. You just summon big dudes, you have flippers to protect it, and theoretically not a lot of decks do kill you for like 3,000 attack monsters, which is basically the same concept as Blue Eyes, but more consistent. DDD is definitely more consistent than Blue Eyes at pulling that off. However, I just don't feel like it's a good choice. It gets really manhandled by Gandora. it doesn't appreciate Phantom Knights in my opinion. People are saying that it beats Phantom Knights. I don't think so. Like, Dark Rebellion is completely demolishing you because you are losing life points every standby phase, and if you just get hit twice by like a contract, you just die. You're dead. If you get it once, you're dead because gloves boost. Like, I just think you can't afford to do that, and like the fact that you need to Orthros your contracts away every time because otherwise you just die. I don't feel like that's a good thing for the deck. Now, on a good day like this, we'll probably top because people will play it. I just don't feel like it's an optimal choice. I think Phantom Knights does everything DD does but better. Playing flippers, interrupting, and putting big monsters on the board. I don't feel like you need to put 3,000 attack monsters like on the board. There is no need to do that. You just need like a Fog Blade and a Floodgate, and that's about it. Like, you're probably gonna be fine. DDD, I just don't feel like it's a good choice. It still falls in the category of a main deck because people that will play DDD will play it for most of their run, or they will play it like D1 for fun, but still. In general, people that are gonna top with DDD are gonna be people that played it for most of their run. Now, it's not that low as a main deck, but I just don't feel like it's a good choice. And you're better off just running PK or Gandora. I want to talk about this one if possible. Okay, there we go. Harpy. I think Harpy is slightly better than DDD, but it doesn't reach PK or Gandora by any means. RP is in an awkward spot because it's expected to do bad every KC, but it really doesn't. Like, it really ends up being good, even though it's not supposed to be. Now, let's try to dive into the matchups. Phantom Knights is beatable, but it's like you need to open it really well. But Phantom Knights opens well, 9 games out of 10. Phantom Knights open well. RP opens well, 5 games out of 10. In those 5 games, you have a shot at beating Phantom Knights. But in the other 5, you're just gonna get destroyed because your deck is basically a brick. Gandora is a different story. It really depends on how Gandora is built. If you're running like triple Perfumer, which I think you probably should in this KC for the Gandora matchup, I'm not running triple Perfumer in my list because I take my list to beat PK, not to beat Gandora. Because in general, I feel like the Gandora matchup is not that good. You can invest a lot into the Gandora matchup. So, like cut MSTs, cut background removal, and play triple Perfumer, and all that jazz. You can invest a lot into it. But in general, I just don't feel like it's, a counter. If you open well, if you open like Channeler and you just want to go Egotist, you can do that. You can just Channeler, make Roach, keep the Channeler on the board, set a back row, and you're probably living against Gandora. And if you keep a Channeler on the board and you have another Harpy, you can go for the rest play later and just get more back row, and at that point you win the matchup, But if you don't do that, you're not beating Gandora because making Roach turn 1 doesn't save you, if you have nothing to protect the Roach. Besides, Gandora is experimenting with different Roach outs, and it's experimenting with cards that benefit from Roach. Like the Spy Plane benefits from Roach being on the board because you just summon it from the hand and just bounce a back row. Nishpachi benefits a lot from that because it just changes Roach defense, it just swings over it. Sphere Kuribo is being played right now because, again, Sphere pretty much outs a Roach, even though it has 0 defense. Even White Prince, you can drop White Princess preemptively and just normal summon a gadget and beat over the insects. There are many ways to deal with Roach, which is why you need Roach and back row. And you gotta draw that in RP. You gotta have the PK. You don't have a consistency skill, you don't have anything like that. You just gotta be good and draw well. I feel like Harpy is a deck that benefits from running Shadow Imp because besides for Malevolence and Roach, it doesn't really have dark monsters. Dark Rebellion, I guess, but again, it benefits from Shadow Imp because Shadow Imp is good both against PK and Gandora right now. Slightly worse into Gandora because Gandora is evolving to be a less dark reliant deck. There are less Levianeers running around, there are more Earth Machines, so they can just win with exclusivity down at some point and just not even going to Gandora plays. But it's still really good against Phantom Knights. So you do benefit from running Shadow Imp in this deck because it's a good card for this KC. And in my opinion, if your deck can run Shadow Imp, it doesn't get bothered by running it. It's probably gonna end up being pretty good. Harpy really doesn't bother with Shadow Imp because even if it's not a life back row, even if your opponent is not playing a dark deck, you can just flip it and use it as a bounce for slash. So it's not it's never really dead unless you draw it, you don't have a slash, and you're playing against water, and just at that point it sucks. But again, I feel like Harpy is fine. It's not the best choice, but better than DTD, I guess. Now, let me go over this one. I want to talk about this one. I feel like Ritual Beast is better than Harpy. Not as a deck. Harpy is definitely a better deck than Ritual Beast overall. But as a KC choice, Ritual Beast in my opinion is better. Because it's a deck that nobody wants to play against. Because it's a really slow grindy deck that can pop off randomly. Sometimes it pops off around turn 1, sometimes it pops off turn 3, sometimes it pops off turn 7. And after it starts going off, there is rarely things you can do. Now, let's talk about Elephant Eater. Gandora. The combo build of Ritual Beast just auto loses to Gandora, because you can just Gandora banish, you have no answer for it, and you just die. Which is why you are pretty much forced to run the back row list. And again, just like the same as Harpy, Ritual Beast is a deck that benefits from running Shadow Imprisoning. It can't be used as a bounce for a slash, but most decks you're gonna face, if you're playing Ritual Beast and you're high on the rank, day 2, day 3, are gonna be Gandora and Phantom Knights. Shadow Imp happens to be pretty good against them. Does your deck play dark monsters? No. So 2 plus 2 is gonna be good. Your deck can run Floodgate, your deck can run a lot of cards that hinder both Phantom Knights and Gandora. In general, not every deck is stacked for Ritual Beast. Phantom Knights runs a lot of flippers, which don't do anything against Ritual Beast most of the times. Most Harpy lists are running flippers. They're not running triple Karma Cut or something like that. At most they're running 2, if they're playing at 24-25, because playing 30 makes Harpy go from here to, here. Playing 30 cards, Neos especially. Not a lot of lists are tagged into Ritual Beast, and most people just get bored of it, so you just scoop, sometimes. So I feel like this is just a good choice. I'm joking about the board part, but most people scoop preemptively against the Ritual Beast. If they see it's going off and they look at their hand, they're I'm not breaking this, they're not gonna play the entire thing, especially in the later stages of the KC, because it's a massive time waste at some point to just, wait for a Ritual Beast to come off. You can do it if you're really in the mode of trying hard. I feel like you shouldn't scoop against Ritual Beast players because sometimes they mess up, sometimes they time out. With the 10-second buff, this might happen a little bit less because they have more time to think. Overall, Rachel Beast is a deck that, like, you know, over time, those 10 seconds are gonna add up and are gonna be a lot. So it's harder, let's say, to win like that, to have that as a win condition, but it's still there. I feel like if you want to do well, you shouldn't scope against Rachel Beast players because not every one of them is, you know, that good. And if you're facing a really good Rachel Beast player, you know, props to them if they beat you. That's pretty much all I have to say. It will do well because it's Rachel Beast. It shouldn't do well, but it ends up getting top 10 every time. It ends up taking more than one top 10 spot. It will probably do it again. I feel like this deck has been alive for so long. Konami should hit this, but they're not gonna do it because they're lazy. And Queen, they should go to free, and the deck would be completely fine. Like, you would still play combo and you just don't play shotgun anymore. That's all I have to say. Like, you're gonna play Canadian Book, like, but that deck is gonna be worse, so. Okay, let's go over Buster Blader, which is not the final meta deck I want to talk about, but I feel like Buster Blader is slightly better than Harpy as a choice, but slightly worse than Rachel Beast. I'm gonna try to make this a little bit more clear. BB is in a weird position because BB is supposed to counter Gandora, but it really doesn't. And BB is supposed to not have the worst Phantom Knight matchup. And while it sort of does, if it's stacked for Gandora, it doesn't do amazing in the Phantom Knights. So it's in this weird spot where it doesn't know what to counter. Again, Buster Lock completely demolishes Gandora. Gandora has no out to the Buster Lock, unless they're playing weird shit, but they shouldn't. Like, they can play, I don't know, like books. I wouldn't play Vortex. Some people experimented with Needle Sealing, which is pretty insane, but if you get hit by Needle Sealing by another player, you know, like, just stop playing KC, like, it's not your day. And yeah, like, Vasarok is really strong against a lot of rogue decks, and it's really strong against Gandora. It's really okay-ish against Ritual Beast, I'd say, because it depends on whether or not they're combo or control list. But even then, like, the control list, it runs free floodgates, so if you establish the Buster Lock, they have a lot of chances to, you know, draw dead cards, because they need to draw, like, a book or a Canadian if they're running it in order to out the Buster Lock. Shadow Imp doesn't out it, obviously, because it negates the activated effect, so it doesn't negate Buster Dragon, continuous effect to make everything a dragon. In general, like, Buster is not a bad choice, simply because it beats rogue decks. It beats the Lunalights, it beats the likes of Necrods, it beats like all these rogue decks. And you want to do that, like, if you want to play a deck, it needs to be able to beat memes. Buster Blader does that really well. I feel like it's one of the best decks at beating memes. And like, the other good deck that beats memes is a Witchcrafter, and Buster Blader destroys Witchcrafters, just like one of the most 100-0 matchups ever. So that is also pretty relevant, which is why, like, Witchcrafter will not be up here. Like, Buster Blader will be higher than Witchcrafter. In general, I'd say that if you want to play Buster, do it. It's not a bad choice. It's not as good as PK or Gandora, but you won't be as, like, targeted as Phantom Knights and Gandora, which is the same thing that, you know, Harpy and Ritual Beast players have. Their decks is not as good as these two, but you rarely will be targeted with specific decks and cards. Now, you can be caught in... The thing about Buster is you can be caught in the crossfire of, like, Skullmeisters and Crows played for Phantom Knights or Gandora, and you kinda suck. Because if your trap gets Skullmeistered and you don't have another one, you're not gonna be fine. If your Whelp gets Crowed and you don't have another one, you're not gonna be fine. Like all these things, all these little things like that hinder Buster are still there, which is why it's not higher. But again, it beats memes. It's supposed to beat Gandora. It doesn't really, but if you Buster lock them, you win. It's not completely dead against Phantom Knights, you lose more than you win, but you can win. Harpy is a weird one, you're probably losing. Ritual Beast, it's a 50-50, if it's the control list, if it's combo, you just win. And DDT is fairly easy depending on how much back row they're running. If they're not running too much back row, it's pretty easy. If they're running a lot of back row and they draw it, then it might become pretty hard. But again, Buster Blader is fine. Choose your attacks wisely. So, run a fusion spell, by the way, I think that's a given. But choose your attacks wisely. And what I mean by that, I mean, choose how many cosmics you want to run, because it's gonna be relevant in this case here. Before you would just run 3 and call it a day. Now you can slap 3 cosmics and be like, oh yeah, this is gonna work, because like, if you're gonna be facing Gandora, you're gonna have to cosmic yourself to draw the Whelp. Do you know how bad it is to cosmic yourself? A lot. Like, you're just -1ing yourself and losing 1,000 life points. Not amazing. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Also, like back row, Trash, Canadians. There are a lot of choices going into this, which were a given in the past case. So, think about it. Let's go over Necrots, I guess, it's here. I think Necrots stands in a category where it's not good as a main deck. Like it should be like down here if it's a main deck, but it's also weird as a secondary deck. But at the same time, I still feel like it will do well. I feel like it's one of the worst main decks, but I can't call it a secondary. It's just I just don't feel like it's good as a secondary deck. Because where would you run Necrots? Like, where in a KC meta would you be like, oh, this is a good call, like I should run this because it wins all the matchups I'm facing. It's just never gonna happen. So I feel like this is just a main deck, but it's not as good as the other main decks. So it falls in the category of like here of an unplayable deck. But like it's one of the best unplayable decks. But it's not a secondary, it's just a full not. And it's not a good meta deck. Like, it's not a good main deck. So it falls in this category where, like, it can top, but it's not amazing. It's supposed to beat Gandora. It kinda does. It can break a lot. It gets destroyed by really random things. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this. I will try to go pretty fast from now. Okay, now, Abyss Actor. Abyss Actor is arguably the worst main deck you can play. Together with Magnets, I'd say. Not Vandreds, definitely not. But I feel like Abyss Actor has a spot as a secondary deck, so it falls in the category of a deck that can be run. I'm gonna put Necrots here because maybe sometimes you want to play it as secondary, but I don't know. Abyss Actor is a deck that can be a meta call. Like, if you're facing a lot of Phantom Knights and if you feel like you are in a good place, like the Phantom Knights are not running a lot of MS back removals, they're running for Gandora, you can go Abyss Actor. Like, if they're running like Floodgates and stuff, you don't care about it, so you just go in and you can win most of your matchups. So it has potential there. As a main deck, it really sucks, and the same applies to Magnets. It's not good as a main deck. I wouldn't place it here with the main decks, and I feel like it just falls in the category of like unplayable, but like I don't even think it has a place as a secondary. Like Necrots, it's a really weird choice. It's a really bad secondary deck, but you can be like, okay, I'm facing a bunch of Gandoras. What do? I play Necrots. It's a terrible choice, but you can make that. Magnets doesn't even have that, because if you look at the tier list, you're like, wow, my deck doesn't beat any of these. It just doesn't. Like, if you just look at the main decks, do you beat Abyss Actors? No. Do you beat DDTs? No. Do you beat Harpy? No. Do you beat Racial Beast? No. Do you beat Buster? No. Do you beat Phantom Knights? No. Do you beat Gandora? Fuck no. And it's another deck that, like, really needs to change its decks in order to do well against one matchup, sorry. But it doesn't even do that. Like, if you change your decks to face Phantom Knights, you're not guaranteeing that you're gonna have a good matchup against Phantom Knights, because Phantom Knights just naturally beats you. And if you play a lot of back row, it's not guaranteed that, you know, like, you will beat Gandora consistently. Gandora will still probably win against you, because your deck just becomes so inconsistent if you're running a lot of back row. It just falls into this bad category of like decks that need to adapt, but they can't do it. Like, it's not good at doing that. Magri is a deck that wants to play for itself, and it just can't in this format, because it just gets destroyed by everything else. It's a fun deck, you can run it if you want to, but over the long run, I don't feel like this is gonna be a good deck. And just at last KC, I don't think this will have that many top slots. It still got a gold icon. It got 4 last KC, but it was Act, so we're not gonna count that. So yeah, maybe like there will be some people that will carry this to the top 100. I just don't feel like it's gonna be a good choice. Around any of these, it's better than Magnets. Stall. Stall, I think, is the best secondary. It falls in the same category as Abyss Actor, in my opinion. It also runs Abyss Actor cards, which is funny. It falls in the category of not being an amazing main deck. Like, I don't feel like you would main this and, you know, be fine with it. Also, you need to be pretty mentally unstable to play this. But it's a really good secondary. It really beats Phantom Knights if you build for it. It doesn't do amazing against other decks. Like Gandora, it's just not amazing. But if you clog like a Buster player, for example, it's gonna be fine. If you clog a Harpy player, it's gonna be fine. If you clog a Racial Beast player, you're gonna be fine. There are many decks that just lose to, you know, getting clogged. I mean, Gandora, it depends. They can just tribute summon, which is awkward. Like, because they can just tribute summon the OG Gandora. Like, so clogging them is not amazing all the times. But you can still like stall a bunch. You're running Finish Chains most likely in your deck, so you're not immediately getting blown off by Gandoras. You're running hand traps. You're running a lot of stuff. It has the syndrome of wanting to draw certain cards against certain decks, which is weird, because you want to draw like a stall monster if you're facing, you know, Mellow that can't run over it. You want to draw Fiendish Chain, a lot of back row against Gandora, and you just want to draw a stall monster after that. You want to clog the Phantom Knight boards, so you want to know, like, draw the token cards. You want to draw like you don't really want to draw back row because you can just get popped. So there are a lot of like things that can go wrong for a stall. But in general, it's not a bad choice. It's a good secondary. It's a good meta cool. As a main deck, it's not amazing. Again, it falls in the same category as Abyss Actor. Abyss Actor is probably slightly better, and that's pretty much that. Now, let me go over something that I would like to talk about. There is Witchcrafter. I feel like Witchcrafter is pretty much in the Abyss Actor tier. It's a good main deck that is able to top solo, but it has a lot of potential as a secondary. Especially for Gandora players, I suggest you try Witchcrafter. Because it deals specifically really well with this matchup. Because Yozenju is a legit threat. Yozenju literally just demolishes Gandora, just cannot lose us, even if they're running a lot of back row. Yeah, okay, I'm not gonna play that high, like it's still pretty much a secondary deck. I feel like it's just the best secondary deck you can play. Witchcrafter completely demolishes Yozenju. It has a good matchup into Ritual Beast. It can win into PK, and although you need a good hand and they need to, you know, semi-break. Gandora is rough. Like, most other matchups are rough, but like, you can win. Which is all you need to know as a Witchcrafter player, but you can win. It's like, let's put it here, because, again, maybe not as good as the Beast Actors. But this will top, this will do well, as always. I feel like it's a good secondary for Gandora players, because it covers matchups really well. And if you are playing this as a main deck, sure, go for it. Yozenju is not a main deck in my opinion. It's not something that you would run the entire time. There are gonna be maniacs that do that. I feel like it's a cool. If you're missing a lot of Gandoras, you play this, and you're gonna collect your free wins. Evil Eye. One of the better secondary decks out here. It's a good deck. I wouldn't run it as a main deck. Mr. W probably will end up playing this anyways, so Lamau is gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna make top 10 with this dude. And he's probably gonna do it, but he's an outlier, so yeah, just don't trust that. It's fine. Run this as a secondary. I don't think you want to run this as your main deck, but if you want to, that's fine. I don't think you're gonna top. That's basically bad. But as a meta call, this is not bad. Dynamist, one of the worst secondary decks. It falls in the category of a deck that you never want to play as a primary deck, and like sometimes you just want to play this as a secondary. But it's a deck that you bust out when you're in a really desperate situation. So yeah, I just don't feel like you would want to run this. It's not unplayable, but don't play this as a main deck, and if you're playing this as a secondary, you're probably really desperate. Luna Lights, it's a little bit down from Evil Eye. It's a good secondary deck. Just don't run it as a main, like don't run it for 3 days and expect to top. You can run it for more than like a Phantom Knights or a Gandora, but you're gonna need to play Gandora and Phantom Knights. You're gonna need to play like a Harpy, you're gonna need to play one of these decks at some point, if you're running a lot of Luna Lights. Now let me push a lot of decks down so we can make room. I guess I had the Ritual Beast twice, so let me just... Boop. Gone. Melo. It's not bad. It's not bad. I feel like Melo got better. It's not a main deck. If it was a main deck, it would be here. I guess you can run it as a main deck. I feel like it's good as a secondary, not amazing as a main deck. We can probably put it in the same category as like these two, but I feel like I'm just gonna place it here. It's pretty much falls in the Evil Eye category, where like some decks just don't have an answer to it, but you're losing to so many random things. Like Set Silver Gadget is unoutable for a Melodious player, and that's funny. But if you're a Melodious player, that's not funny, you know. It got better in the last KC. Meta switched it a little bit better. Same can't be said for Gaia, PK is still there. I feel like Gaia is not a bad secondary because it's okay in Dugandora. It's just not an amazing deck. It's better than Magnets. Like Mero and Gaia are just better than Magnets for this KC. Even though Magnets like individually does well into Gaia and can beat Melo, I feel like people that say that Melo beats Magnets are just kinda wrong, but because Magnets has a lot of tools to push through, Schuberta Pass. Flight control is like these two like fall in the same category. Flight control I guess can be a okay secondary. TG Dino is like not a good choice. It's not a bad deck. If you want to run it, it's not a good choice. Same applies to Noble Knights. If you want to run it. You can do well with it. It's not a secondary, so just don't think it's a secondary deck. It's not something you can swap to. You gotta play this the entire time if you want to play this. And that's pretty much it. Let me move a lot of stuff down. I guess I had Kaya twice, so we can remove this. Whoop. Water! Unplayable garbage. It's just no. Thunder Dragon, unplayable garbage. Probably better than water. Because it at least beats Gandora. Gandora can't really win into Thunder. It's pretty scary, actually. As a matchup. But it just bricks so much. Hazy Flames. Same as Dynamis, like it's not a good secondary deck. Probably slightly better. Because of Enigma Zud. Wounded Hero. It falls in the category of like basically unplayable, but it's like even worse than Dynamis. And Dark Eye of Decay is just definitely unplayable. I'm gonna put it like after this. It's just definitely unplayable. Like you can run it, it's not gonna do well. Tellar. I feel like Tellar is just not a good choice. I'm gonna put it as an unplayable as well. Because in my opinion it just falls in the same category as Magnets, as like you can top with it, but why would you like run this instead of any other deck? I guess I had Melodious again, so I'm gonna delete this. Fire King! It's not a bad secondary. I feel like it's pretty fine. If you're playing this, you might do well. It's a good deck. Again, you have different builds, you have Alistair, you have Enigma Zod. There are a lot of things you can do. It's pretty fine. Red Eyes. Here. It's not completely inviable, it's just whatever. Cyber Dragon falls in pretty much the same category as Magnet Stellar, it's probably slightly worse. Gonna put it here. Let's move Brothers a little bit down, it's not that good. Cliffords. I feel like he's kinda here. It's better than some decks, but I don't think it's a good choice. He will probably still have like 1 or 2 tops. Dark Magician falls in pretty much this category of unplayability. Same applies for Domination of Darkness. That's what is down here. Shira is pretty down bad as well. Blue Eyes. I guess Blue Eyes. I can put Blue Eyes here. Vendreds. I should have like a Zaloon category of decks that only him would run, but Heroes is pretty bad. Probably better than Dark Eye of Decay, I guess. Blackwings. We're not gonna talk about this. Just gonna put it down here. It's even out. It's unplayable. Burning Abyss is not a secondary. I think I'm gonna put it here. Let me make room for it. It's not a secondary, it's a deck that you want to run by choice.
It's not the best at that. And that's pretty much all I need to say. If someone will top with Burning Abyss, all I know is that guy is gonna be healed as, you know, the legend. So if you want to do that, then run it. If you want to top, then don't run it. Meds is pretty bad in this case. Vampire is down bad. Malphos, it has potential. I don't feel like it's a counter deck, but it has potential. I would want to run it, like, to place it a little bit higher, but I don't feel like it categorizes as a secondary deck. It's something that you need to invest a lot of time into. Cope Woven, by this I mean, you know, the Hope Woven and Mad Dragon Water deck, 20 cards one, not the Crystron one. I would say it's not a good secondary, because yes, it beats Phantom Knights, but it gets absolutely manhandled by Ghidorah, so it's worse as a secondary than what it was, and as a main deck it's not good, so it falls in this category of like being a really bad main deck and like not a good secondary, but you can run it, like it's there, it's a choice. All dice pretty much falls in these categories, and I feel like we are fine. Maybe Blois is a little bit too high. Fear is probably better than these. DM will probably top, because there will always be one guy that does that. Oh, it's probably down. I'd say TD is better than these decks. It's unplayable, but it's not that bad. And Red Eyes probably deserves to go a little bit down. It's not a bad deck, but it's also not good. And heroes, I mean the Seal Tombs hero, like the actual OTK list, is probably in this category. Probably not as good as the other. That's it. I think we're done. These are my thoughts regarding Casey. I feel like this will be pretty much, you know, like the results of the Casey. If it's not like this, then I guess I just suck, and that's all I need to say. So, see ya.